Charity means sharing what you have with others. Why should we share? Because true happiness results from giving, not taking. Charity doesn't mean giving useless things that you don't want away. Good charity is giving even when it hurts you. Also, it isn't the amount you give that matters, but how you give it. Just like when you offer food to the Lord, you must give charity lovingly and with respect. The most important thing about charity is to give without expecting anything in return. My favorite story about charity is the story of Gowrie. Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a woman and her 7-year-old daughter, Gowrie. After Gowrie's father passed away, her mother earned a living as a maid and spent her days providing the best she could afford for Gowrie. Though they were poor, they lived happily in their humble hut. Every day, her mother would tell Gowrie different stories about the Lord and about love, kindness, and honesty. She also taught Gowrie how to chant while doing her activities. Soon, Gowrie developed great faith in God and good qualities like obedience, love, and a giving nature. A few years later, a drought hit the land. A drought is when there's no more water. Wells dried up, streams evaporated, and grass and crops died. The grassy and green land turned bare and brown. Gowrie's mother could not find any work, and later she fell ill, with hardly any food or water around to help her. The whole village faced poverty, with the crops drying up. They didn't have any money. Water was very hard to come by, and soon people started fighting over any water they could find. Gowrie and her mother had to buy a little water in exchange for all the pots and the pans in the house. Soon, that water, too, got over. Since her mother fell seriously ill, Gowrie went in search of water, with the only vessel that was left in the hut. Gowrie walked past dried-up riverbeds and along a road that led up a mountain. On and on she marched, with faith in God and constantly chanting. At about noon, she saw fresh water dripping out of a spout. Gowrie carefully held the tiny vessel below the spout until it was full. She was happy, as she now could offer water to her mother. On the way back home, when she reached the foot of the mountain, she saw a puppy. He was having difficulty walking, and his tongue was hanging out. "You poor thing," said Gowrie, "I must give you some water to drink. I am sure that there will be enough left for my mother." Saying so, Gowrie poured some water into her palm. The puppy eagerly lapped up the water. When he was finished, he wagged his tail in gratitude and ran away. Gowrie continued chanting God's name with full concentration. She quickly rushed back home. The neighbor who was looking after her mother opened the door. She was so thirsty that she could hardly speak. Without a moment's hesitation, Gowrie poured out some water for her. Drinking it down quickly, the neighbor said, "Thank you so much. May God bless you." Thanking her neighbor for looking after her mother, Gowrie quickly went to her mother and held the vessel to her mother's lips. After drinking some water, her mother felt much better and asked Gowrie to drink the remaining water. There was hardly any left. That's when Gowrie realized how thirsty she was. Just as she was about to drink the water, she heard a knock on the door. When she opened it, she saw an old beggar. A beggar is a person who goes door to door begging for food because they don't have any for themselves. "Please give me some water. I shall die of thirst if I don't get any soon," he begged. Gowrie quickly handed over the vessel with the rest of the water to him. He smiled as he took it and then turned the vessel upside down. All of the water fell onto the ground. Before Gowrie could even say anything, a fountain came up from the spot where the beggar had dropped the water. There was enough water not only for Gowrie and her mother, but also for the entire village. As soon as Gowrie recovered from her surprise, she looked around for the beggar, but he had disappeared. Gowrie realized that God himself had come in the form of the beggar. She felt great joy and paid gratitude to God for visiting her humble house. In this story, Gowrie gave the precious little water she had to other people. This shows her great faith in God and her ability to give. She didn't have enough water for herself, yet she helped everyone she could, from an animal to a friend to a complete stranger. Gowrie gave out of kindness, even though it could hurt her, without expecting anything in return. But the Lord rewarded her good behavior and saved her life. How can you give charity? Besides the act of charity, there are groups called charities that help the community. Charities can help in many ways. They support people that are poor, sick, or hungry, schools, temples, animals, kids, and many other things. You can donate money or items to charities or volunteer your time. Have you ever given food or clothes at a food drive? Have you visited an animal shelter or a hospital to help? Maybe your school has a cool program like the Giving Tree. Your school and the temple have many drives and programs that you can participate in. You can also give to people that you know personally need help. Maybe someone in your family is having a rough time and you bring them food and clothes. Maybe one of your friends is sick and you donate money to the hospital to help them. There are many ways to give charity, big and small. What matters is that you give from the heart.